Welcome back to customcomputing.ca. Today we received some of our radiators and pump and reservoir. The two radiators that we chose, we were going with two 420 radiators. This is an EK-420, which has about 55 millimeter thickness, and then that's an XSPC radiator with 30 millimeter thickness. I wanted to go with a thicker front radiator because there's plenty of room there, so we chose the EK-420 thick millimeter radiator. The choice for the Rads really came down to two things. The first thing was size. Can we actually fit two 420 millimeter radiators, triple radiators inside the 750D? After we took measurements and read up on these exact radiators, we believed that we were playing within 15 millimeters of space. The EK we wanted to be in the front as it's a thicker radiator and we could do a push-pull config on it. The top radiator is the XSPC 30 millimeter radiator, but it provides us with the exact depth that we need and the correct port location. This was imperative because you needed more space between the tubes, and the XSPC one was more spread out as opposed to the EK, where it's going to be closer to the reservoir, so it's not as important. Here we see our pump with the gold additives. Basically, it's a PMP 450 pump. It's got the power adjustments in the back, and they put a gold shroud behind the pump, as well as gold block fittings around the pump as well. I'm going to be using gold fittings, if not coloring the acrylic tube attachments gold. All of the gold seems to be going well, except I'm having to return the reservoir. It's got blemishes, cuts, and scratches all over it. It's supposed to be brand new, but the gold is actually painted off, chipped. As you can see, like it's been completely destroyed. Even the glass tube has been scratched and altered. You can really tell on the top how it's been blemished or worn away. I'm not too sure what this went through, but it's unacceptable and it's going to be returned. And as soon as possible, I'll be getting another one, hopefully what they expect them to be. So we'll see how that goes within the next week. But regardless, once it does come back, hopefully it is the correct gold that I'm looking for, and it'll go with the other three portions that I am saying. I was a little bit upset that Phobia sends out products like this, but maybe it was just an old product that it got tarnished and some chemicals or something got into it. I'm not too sure, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for now. So here is a quick crude taping of the case as to the measurements of each item. Looks as though we're going to be playing with a few millimeters of space between the XSPC radiator and the EK radiator. The issue that we might have is the holes for the front rad may not line up correctly, and we may have to push it right down because this is showing that there's probably a few millimeters of space on the bottom and literally 2 to 3 in between there. But if we use the original holes, there may not be any, or we may have to create our own new holes. The space that's available where the res and pump config are going to go is straight through there, and we're going to have to create our own um, bracket. So here we are. They're mounted, and they couldn't be any more meant for each other. There's the XSPC 420 rad up top, and here is the EK rad on the bottom. We've actually used the provided holes to mount the front rad and the top rad. The spacing between the top rad and the fan is almost immeasurable, but there's a stream of light that shines through that shows that it in fact is not even touching. So because we are using the standard holes, the ins and outs for the top rad are perfectly situated, as well as with hard acrylic. I'm going to bring one of those directly into the top of the EK and out of the EK down into pump res config. Uh, Also, because we're using the standard EK mounting holes, there's no need for any modification except for two new holes for the fans. EK comes with uh, 20 millimeter spacing between their fans as opposed to the standard 15 millimeter spacing. So we're going to have to do two new holes, which shouldn't be too hard, and then all the fans will be able to fit on that EK res. Now, before we go and start editing our mounting position for the pump, we're going to have to see exactly where we want it placed. There seems to be a massive hole where we're going to want to put our pump, which means we're going to have to put a metallic piece down and probably do some uh, drilling inside the motherboard cage just because it's not meant for that. So with that said, we're going to take that piece that we already have cut and we're going to actually cut it down to size. My original thought was to use two pumps and two res configs. However, this pump is quite big and I think it would look a little silly if I had two of these pumps in this configuration. As you can see, there is some space there, not much, but once we mount the fan to that, it'll be absolutely fine, and there's some airflow within that space there as well. This case was made for 240 Rads in the front, and taking out the drive cage really allowed us to put in a 420, which fits perfectly, and really impressed that we were able to install these two 420 Rads without actually having to drill new holes or anything. The two Rads that I'm using, the EK Rad, for some reason it's not showing it here, but they're a different type of material. So the EK is actually a brown. You can't really notice it so much on uh, this camera, but it is a brown, and then that's a matte black for the XSPC radiator. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint them both a flat black because that's the black of the case. It's more of a flat black, not a glossy. But yeah, there you can see the brown tinge of the EK rad. So I really didn't like that. So I'm going to go ahead and paint both radiators um, the flat black. So here it is, just prepping it, covering up all of um, the fins so you don't get any paint in the fins. And once it is painted matte black, flat black, sorry, yeah, I'm going to be coloring the logos gold. Now I just have to find a gold paint that will go with all the other golds that I have. But once it's done, the logo for the EK as well as the logo for the XSPC will be painted gold. So here is the new EK painted next to the XSPC, and you can tell there's still a little bit offset on the blackness. The EK is more of a matte black, and now this, sorry, the XSPC is a matte black, and now this EK is a flat black. So we're going to go ahead and paint the XSPC rad as well. I really like this paint, and it comes out really well. So we'll take a look at that paint job as well. So here we're going to be able to see the difference between the XSPC and now the flat black that we just painted the EK res. You can see the difference between the two. So I don't want that showing up, and so we're going to have to color the XSPC. It came out absolutely wonderfully. The XSPC rad looks even better with the flat black, actually, if you ask me. Um, its matte black just didn't really go with the case, and it didn't also go with any of the other components around. So it came out beautifully, and we're going to mount them as well as paint the logos gold. So I have to find the correct paint color to get those logos popping out in a nice gold fashion. Next, we'll be looking at the mount system that I've created for the pump, and it seems to work just fine, and we'll start mounting. So my original idea was to cut a piece of sheet metal and fabricate it to fit in that space. But after looking around, I noticed that the hard drive cage, which I'm not going to be using, as well, there are two, uh, fits perfectly. Not only that, it matches the exact same black. In order to do this, I was going to have to clear a little bit of a path for it to mount onto because there's already two holes up there that I can screw in, and then the rest will just basically be flush to the motherboard cage. So once we have that mounted, as you can see, I've already got a bit of it disassembled. I'm going to go ahead and cut it to size, and then we're going to start sizing it up and see what it looks like. Now that I have that little nub dremelled off, it's nice and sanded and flat, so we can put the mount flush to the motherboard tray and have it solid there. This is the mount that came with the Bits Power pump because it has 4 screws that we're going to drill through. But first we're going to actually put a padding of behind it in order to slim down any vibration. So you can see that I've put on 2 pieces of double-sided tape. That's not for adhesion, that's for vibration control. And then I'm going to drill the holes into the actual backing there. As you can see, those 4 holes fit perfectly, and it's raised up just a little bit, which I like. And the hard drive piece fits perfectly. So here we have it all mech'd out. I've cut the holes for the mounting as well as placed it in place with the double-sided tape. Um, as you can see, there is a hole to the right which we dremelled out, which we're going to paint over, but that's going to be the wire assembly there, where I'm going to put all the wires for the pump, the res, and probably the lighting as well. So here's the final coat of paint on it. I do love the flat black. It really does actually go with the case black as well. So we're going to put dampening on the actual mount as well. So we're going to put double-sided tape on the back of the mount as well. So it's going to sit in there with double-sided tape between the actual mount and the motherboard tray. So that's 2 pieces of double-sided tape that are going to be taking some vibration off of the case. And here it's just showing that I have the screws that are going to be put in. Okay, so here we have the final paint job, as well as the double-sided tape is mounted on the back of it for extra vibration control. Once this thing has been put in and screwed in, it's going to be so solid because it also has the feet at the bottom, which are going to be mounted right against the bottom of the case. So the weight is actually going to be pressing down on the case with those 2 feet, and then it's going to be held up by the screws at the very top. So once we have this mounted, it should be as solid. So here's the final mounting position. The screws are in and the double-sided tape has been taken off. It's definitely not going to move anywhere. As you can see at the bottom there, there's double-sided tape that's mounting it on the bottom as well. So we'll put in the pump and see how it looks. This is the pump and its glory. I think it looks absolutely fantastic next to the power supply, and so I'm going to work on the res config next, and then also going to be buying the fans for the radiators to mount the radiators as well. Please let me know what you think, rate, subscribe, and comment. As well, I will be having a contest upcoming.